I have not met a rich guy who is traveling only in Ubers. People who have a 5, 10, 15 crore kind of a network considering themselves rich, sorry for them. At 15 crores, if you have to live your life for next 50 years, you better travel in Uber. I think that's nothing short of being stupid or being ignorant about the fact that the goal of life in itself can't be having a certain amount of corpus at an age of 80. What would you do with all the mutual fund investment that you are having if not buy a home, buy a car, go on a holiday, get married, get your kid educated? Are you going to just look at that net worth number and just die looking at it? We have an example locally, Mr. Rakesh Junjunwala. I were to ask to live last 10 years of your life subjected to a wheelchair with immobility at the cost of 15,000 crores or 40,000 crores. How much of that actually matters?
What should be my next action? Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, Keval.
Thank you so much for having me, Bijay.
So today in this podcast, this is going to be one of the first of the subsequent a lot of episodes that I'm looking at doing in the topic of personal finance. And one of the things that I have heard a lot from you is, which also you have corrected a couple of times to me, saying that, hey, it's financial well-being and not financial independence.
Correct.
So I think it's a great point to start this conversation with. What do you mean by financial well-being?
Sure. I mean, see, this is one of the most important reasons why we are also building One Finance, and this is something. This term financial well-being actually was coined in US, and so to sum it up or give a very straight answer, financial well-being, it's a state of mind wherein financial independence or financial freedom, it's a stage of life. Okay, so that is very important to understand, that financial well-being can be achieved right here, right now, wherein say financial independence or financial freedom or financial education, literacy, these are all things which need a certain amount of time period to actually be achieved. So financial well-being, in short, it's a state of mind, and in simple word, it just means being at peace with your finance and your financial behavior. That's what it means.
So you mentioned financial behavior and being at peace with your financial state. It's looking like more of being aware of what your finance situation right now is, and of course and can you talk about the behavior part of it, like when you say the behavior, finance behavior? Sure.
So see, eventually, I mean, whatever we do, we might have aspirations, whether it is about achieving a particular degree or maybe any personal goal, like it can be a weight loss, weight gain, it can be a certain amount of professional success that we are looking at. All of this, we know that these are all results, and there is a larger or a better way to govern your life is to look at the inputs and not at the result or be obsessed by the result in itself. And that is exactly what is true for financial goals. You might be hell-bent or you might be obsessed with the goal planning, but eventually what is in your hand is your financial behavior and not just the outcome. So what you can actually manage is your own behavior. Just like if you have a goal of losing a certain amount of weight in a certain amount of time, what you eventually do is you mark that, go to gym, work out 4 days a week minimum, have not more than 1,000 or 1,200 calories a day, and you will end up achieving your goal, right? And that is what we talk about financial behavior. And so we just encourage people to look at the right financial behavior. And of course, as we progress in the show, I'll share, if time permits, about what we have done to actually talk about financial behavior or how we can monitor financial behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the recent awareness that I have generally in my life is, a lot of times we get caught up with the output metrics, right? Whatever that is, right? Whether that's a professional goal that I want to accomplish XYZ, or if somebody creates content, I want to hit certain number and so on and so forth, right? Or if somebody is running a company, this is the milestone that I want to hit, that I want to hit with my organization. and these are the output metrics.
Right.
And same with the finance as well. We are so obsessed with the output metric that I want to have a corpus of 10 crore, 15 crores by XYZ is. But what we often overlook generally in life, and then, now we're having conversation, is the focus on input metric.
Right.
If I want that, then what's the input metric that I need to focus on?
Absolutely.
Right? So if I want to hit XYZ milestone, that's the output metric. And my understanding is, which, like I said, like in this awareness, my understanding is that output metric will take care of itself if I fix my input metric.
Absolutely. I mean, that holds true for every walk of life. I mean, it's not just limited to finance. That's true for everything. I mean, and that's what it means when, in Gita, when it was said that, karm kar, phal ki ichha mat kar. It doesn't really mean that you're not going to have an output or result, because every action will have some or the other output. So there is no way that you have done any amount of karma or any amount of input, then there is not going to be an output. Output is by default. It doesn't mean that do not expect output. It just means that don't be obsessed by output. Don't focus on output, because that's a byproduct of what you are putting in as an input. Okay, so focus on input and output will take care of itself. That's true. And when you spoke about certain milestones, 25 crores, 50 crores, 100 crores, for the lack of better words, I think that's nothing short of being stupid or being ignorant about the fact that the goal of life in itself can't be having a certain amount of corpus at an age of 80, where that has come at the cost of everything, that has come at the cost of relationships, that has come at the cost of experiences in life, that has come at the cost of health, and a lot of other things. I mean, is that the cost that you really want to pay to have a certain amount of corpus at an age where you will not even be able to use that corpus? What would you do of a 100 crore corpus at an age of 80 if that has come at the cost of your heart, your relationships, your personal life, all of it? So it's a no-brainer, and that is where financial well-being is most important. And I mean, for a country like India, we are blessed to have so much of precedence globally.
Yeah.
I can talk about something like Luxembourg, right? The highest per capita income, one of the richest countries in the world, and divorce rate is more than 90%. You talk about a country like America, right? Purchasing power parity, amazing, great lifestyle, financial awareness, literacy, 16 crore people in the working age, almost 80% of them aware about financial products and literacy, and the depression rate is 120%. So these are things which are pretty clear, right? I mean, they are the highest consumer of antidepressant in the world, in spite of being they're about so many other things. If money could alone improve the quality of life, then why wouldn't the most richest countries in the world be depressed? Right? Because money is a mean to an end, it's not an end to itself. What are we trying to achieve? I mean, if that comes at the cost of all of it, whether it is about our book integrity, all we have said that, I mean, financial success, if it is coming at the cost of your values.
Yeah. And I think it's very interesting that we're having this conversation at the time when a lot of people are aware of, and the whole goal of financial independence. I want to, like I said, right, build a certain corpus at the age and so on and so forth. And I think a lot of it has also come from a lot of people who have done in the West and then also in the country as well. And now we are having the conversation of, hey, you know what, hang in there. While you are chasing that independence, at the same time, know the state that you are in right now. Right. In the pursuit of chasing that number that you have or that goal that you have, are you, how is your overall life quality, till the time you reach that point, right? And what I could hear, and you can add to this, what I could hear from what you're saying is, while you are chasing that number, it can coexist, right? So let me, first, like your pursuit of financial independence and financial well-being, they can coexist, right?
Absolutely. I mean, your financial independence will be worth only if you pursue it in a well-being state of mind. Because, right, I said, I mean, the goal of financial planning or understanding finances is not to be rich at an age of 80 and not be able to do anything about it. It is to be happy till the age of 80.
Yeah.
It is not to be rich at 80, so there is a difference, right? I mean, if you have achieved all of it at 80 and lived miserably for 80 years of your amazing, beautiful life, what's the point of being rich at 80 at the cost of losing these 80 years? So financial well-being talks about being happy with your finances or peaceful with your finances till 80 and beyond, I mean, if required, And that is very important. I mean, we speak a lot about, great investors in India, abroad, and, you talk about the likes of Warren Buffett or, Charlie Munger, he just passed away last week. I mean, at 99, right? I mean, I think
100 almost.
Yeah, almost 100. And he conducted the last year's Berkshire Hathaway meeting as well, right? And then we have an example locally, Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. I mean, of course, hats off to his investment style, his amazing, his audacity, his buoyancy, all of it. I mean, great admirer of his work and all of it. But if at a personal level, I were to ask that, to live last 10 years of your life subjected to a wheelchair with immobility at the cost of maybe, 15,000 crores or 40,000 crores, how much of that actually matters? I mean, and if that is to be achieved, I don't know. I mean, is that what you really need to sacrifice to have such amount of money that you are not probably going to be able to use it, or also you are acquiring that money at the cost of your life? So if you look at a lot of Western investors, they have already realized that.
Yeah.
They do not do wealth accumulation at the cost of their lives in general. And that doesn't mean not working hard. That doesn't mean being careless about things. That just means being conscious and aware about it.
Also finding that balance.
Balance, I generally avoid using the word balance.
Yeah, balance is not the 50-50.
Yeah, balance is generally used to, it's a second name to mediocrity, I feel. I mean, that's again a very personal belief. I think anybody who's trying to sell you balance is trying to keep you mediocre. I feel that, there's enough sequential things that you can do as well by just being aware. I mean, if you can be 100% into something for a given period of time and enjoy that, if you really believe in the purpose of that work that you're doing, it can be fun, and then you can move on from it. I mean, that's how, in general, we have seen people living life, and we try to live our lives like that.
So when you look at somebody, and, if you were to look at few key indicators to say that, what are some of the few key indicators that will tell you that the financial well-being of the person? What would be like top 3?
There's only one, honestly. I mean, and that we have written even in our playbook. So when you talk about one finance, we categorically we have written, we are not into financial education, we are not into, financial independence, we are not into wealth creation. Then what is the business that one finance is into? It is in the business of peace of mind. So for us, the indicator is very clear. Someone who is at peace with his financial decisions will always outperform the most knowledgeable guy who is laid on with anxiety. Because you see, patience is an outcome of your peace, right? If you are at peace with your decisions, you will be patient about it. But if you are constantly anxious about your decisions, you cannot stick to any decision for long term. I mean, we all understand that financial returns are just an outcome of your patience, long term. We all talk about it long term, right? Then why is it that 97% of the mutual fund investors in India do not see beyond 4th or 5th year? Why is it that so? I mean, SEBI just released this data 3-4 months back, and it was pretty obvious that people could not stick to their decisions because they have taken those decisions through some external motivation or manipulation, right? And that is always going to be the case.
Yeah. So I want to switch a little bit of gears, and so financial well-being, and the other term that I want to talk about is financial planning. And oftentimes when anybody says that, hey, you got to do financial planning, it's like, oh, you know what, I'm earning now. When somebody tells me that, you got to do financial planning, maybe this person is referring to, I need to start investing now, right? So what is financial planning in the first place? And, and then maybe we can go deeper into that.
Sure. Or maybe I can start telling you what financial planning is not. That's more important, I feel, to know what not to do than just to know what to do. Financial planning is not investment planning alone. Okay, that's like saying that being healthy is all about working out. There are so many other things, right? You can be working out 6 hours a day. Can you be healthy? No, you would probably die if you are over working out, right? If you are eating wrong, you'll still have a miserable health.
Or not sleeping well.
Yeah, if you're not sleeping well, right? Or of all, everything else, if you're just having very high toxic intakes, or if you're having extremely terrible hormonal imbalances, all of this can be a very bad health indicator, or will lead to a very bad health compared to just working out. So that is what is happening today. Unfortunately, financial planning has been limited in India to investment plannings, and that's like saying kaun sa exercise karna hai. So when people come and ask us kaun sa mutual fund lena chahiye, kaun sa, that's the last question. Honestly speaking, I mean, all the mutual funds that are running, they all have different style. They'll all be a winner in some phase of market.
Yeah.
Because these are all intelligent people running the show, right? I mean, you can't be a CIO, you can't be a fund manager if you are really that dumb that you don't know what to invest into. They are all smart, great people.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be that any of the fund manager is going to be like horrible for his life. All of them have been great at a certain cycle of market. And also, when you talk about mutual fund, it's not going to be limited to active fund management or equity investing alone. Even in 40 lakh crores, more than 50%, or it's almost 50%, but generally it's 55-45% percent is into debt. Right? So the richest people in the world, if you look at debt, they have been investing into debt as well, right? So what is this obsession about telling that, oh my God, if you invest into debt funds, you're never going to be wealthy? That's wrong. You have certain goals, you have certain requirements. If you want to be at peace with your finances, you need to be completely aware of where you are, what you want to do, how much you can do, and only then take calls. So that's why, we do financial psychological assessment, we do generation profiling, and then there is a financial plan that can be taken. It can't be like that's like saying that these are the same exercises that everybody should be doing. That information is available on YouTube, right? Then why is it that gym memberships are 25,000 a year, but a coach, a health coach, a personal coach is 25,000 a month? Exercise to sabko pata hai kaun si karni chahiye. I mean, who in today's world doesn't have information of what workout is best to get rid of your abs or build some muscles? Everybody knows that.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that you say this, because I've had this conversation on this podcast on a completely different topic. For instance, we're talking about functional nutrition, right. And where a functional nutritionist, came and shared that, hey, you know what? A lot of people say that, hey, this is good, this is great,
right?
Healthy food.
Right.
What is healthy food for you and your body might be completely toxic for me. Because,
Absolutely.
I have a different body composition and I have a different, metabolism and whatnot, right? The entire gut microbiome composition is completely different.
Right.
And that's why it's very personalized in that sense.
Absolutely.
And what I hear you say is in the, personal finance space as well, whatever we have heard so far is this is the best this is the best mutual fund, or this is the best stock that you should go and buy this company, but for whom? Nobody asked.
Right.
For whom is this, the best, right? Maybe that's for the person who is sharing it, it's the best for that person, but never, is that for me? And I think because we never question that for whom. So you also mentioned about the psychological test. How important is it for one to, okay, hang in there, let me understand my personality type, who I am, before I really jump into buying into the advice of what people are telling me.
But I think this was a question that we always, kind of found very funny when I was starting my career, and whenever, we used to see that we would walk into any customer and the first thing that you ask is, sir, what is your risk appetite? That's like asking a patient who has walked into the, hospital, telling him, आपको क्या लगता है आपको क्या बीमारी है? I mean, I have come to a multi-specialist or a super specialist kind of a doctor so that they can tell me.
Is that the first question? Like,
That's the first question, right? That's the first question. Risk assessment is the first question that you are technically also now supposed to do. But honestly speaking, do you really know your risk appetite? Because risk appetite is not just financial. Risk appetite is more emotional.
yeah, and psychological.
Yeah, that's exactly what that's what we are. We are a emotional being. We are not a logical being.
True.
You have to embrace that. You have to understand that every decision of our life, right? I mean, how often we over talk about being logical, and I don't even think that we are supposed to be logical in that sense. We try to give idealistic responses to everything. That okay, when I ask you that Bijay, how much investment do you want to do? You might say, okay, I want to invest probably ₹1 million. And I will tell you that for how long do you want to invest this money? You will be like, I don't know, maybe 5-7 years. I don't have a problem. What happens if tomorrow something goes wrong with your work? And do you think that you are not going to need that money? What will be your first reaction? Whether you will sell your flat first or your equity mutual fund first. That's a decision which is very emotional. And also, probably you may not even need that money. But if you see something drop by 70%, 60%, 50%, best of the people will have a reaction to it. Twins, there have been research that have been conducted, twin brothers entered the same kind of stock at the same moment. 50% down, one brother would buy double of it. The other brother would sell all of it. Who is right, who is wrong? There's nothing, right? The other person is like, boss, this is giving me so much of palpitation, it's ruining my peace. Seeing your finances down by 50% has got nothing to do, or probably very less to do with your financial appetite. It has got a very high chances of understanding that this is something which is not aligning to your emotional side, and that is something which we discovered in our families as well. Whether it was Jeet, whether it was me, my father. On the other hand, I mean, his financial appetite could be much lesser than what I possess because of the lineage. But his emotional appetite happens to be so high that he would any day be able to take a 50, 70, 80% kind of a loss very happily and forget about it the next day. We would never come to know about any profits and loss by the behavior.
Case of it.
Right. Me, on the other hand, I mean, look at my face with 30% downside in my portfolio. I mean, I feel so depressed. I feel like, why is that happening? And what is it that I did wrong? I'll go into RCAs and root cause analysis and kind of try to figure out where I went wrong, and ruin my entire piece of life, not just mine, but also a lot of people along with me will get impacted because I was not able to handle my emotions with my finances pretty well. And that is something which we realized. So of course we did a lot of work on that, and then God has been really kind. We got in touch with amazing scientists. We built a framework. It's the largest and the oldest psychology framework called OCEAN, OCEAN, and or famously called as Big Five of Personalities. So we are all made with that same kind of a composition, but the variation is in terms of the quantity of each of these traits. And
so the combination is different.
The combination
is different for each of the people.
And then a great thank to Mr. Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, where he could also help us understand that how we are still related to so much of genetics with our ancestral species like whales and not just apes. We think that we are closest related to apes, but surprisingly, anybody who would go there and check the science would really understand that we still mimic a lot of behavior genetically from our ancestors in whether it's from the mammals, whether it is from the dinosaur family, which is now birds. So the last part of their family is the birds that we see today. And these are the things which like really make us who we are, and we were grateful to have all these scientists on our side and create MoneySign. We feel very happy and glad that it's an Indian company in the world right now to have a psychology patent in finance, and we are the only ones there, and more proud because it's an Indian company that has done so much of research in that.
And 100%. And I think it's been almost a year, maybe a little here and there since I was introduced you to, and the kind of work that you guys are doing. And when I looked at that, MoneySign, I was like, hang in there. Like, the only question that anybody in the investment, thing asked ever is like, what is your risk appetite? Right. Like you said, like, how much risk do you think you can take, right? And if you go in the stock market, it's a plain simple thing, right? Hey, if you are capable of taking high risk, go for the mid caps or the small caps. If you think that you can't take that kind of risk, but you are happy with slow growth, then go with the large caps. It's as simple as that, right? And that's like, oh, okay, that's pretty simple. Okay, I have more money. I think I can afford to take a little bit of a hit. Then let me go with a bit of more risk. And now things are a little not as good. Then maybe I'll not take that kind of risk, right? And then when I looked at the assessment, MoneySign assessment, and then now I could connect all the dots in terms of why I was behaving in certain way, because that is something so linked with how I think and how my psychology is, right? So I want you to share what the MoneySign is, and I think for everybody who's getting started in their financial journey, it's very important for them to do their own assessment in terms of where they stand, right? So share with us what is MoneySign assessment and how this assessment helps people like me to understand themselves better, so that they can sort of go to understanding that, oh, okay, this is why I'm behaving, and also this is how probably I should look at things going forward.
So see, I mean, the assessment is pretty simple. It's there on our mobile app, and it takes 8 to 10 minutes to take that assessment. It's been designed by a group of scientists and a lot of other scientists.
And what is that assessment? It's a series of questions?
It's a series of questions. It's a series of direct and indirect questions that helps you understand yourself better, and it can be taken only once. And like I said, it follows the most accepted framework of psychology. Any assessment that you would want to take, most of the assessment would be based on Big Five. And what we have done is we have included the entire financial aspect of it, and then again topped it up with the theory of evolution to look at our genetic match and create these money signs.
So this is personality test for your financial behavior.
This is personality test for your overall risk appetite, and then we have translated that into your financial behavior, because to be very fair, this would hold true in every kind of your decision making. But in financial services, I mean financial decision, we have just kind of hyper personalized it for financial decisions, and we have restricted or limited ourselves only to that, because we are not an expert on anything else, but a little bit kind of a better. I would not call myself expert or anybody that, but like we are a tad bit probably better than others when it comes to understanding financial behaviors, and again due to a lot of other external reasons. So this assessment can be taken by people, but it can be taken only once, because once you are aware about anything, you might end up manipulating yourself into questionnaire. So it needs to be taken in isolation or with full concentration. And you can know your money sign. I mean, more than I think 80,000 people today have already taken their money sign, and over 90% of them agree to the assessment result, which is by far the best.
So what are some of the money signs, and what are some of the characters, if you can highlight, so that people...
So money signs are distributed into 3 different, there is air money signs, and there is water, and then there is land. So these are again species we share a lot of our genetic DNA composition with some as high as 97% of our DNA matches to a lot of these species. And based on that, we have created enlightened whale, there is a virtuous elephant, tactical tiger, and just to let you know, what happens is we are so trained to be a tiger in general that we forget the significance of being a turtle. Turtle lived the longest, right? they achieve things in the most certain way, right? And tigers or sharks, on the other hand, they are extremely greedy, or probably, they are driven by so much of knowledge and so much of skill set that they have the highest probability of going bankrupts. So, when we launched it, our real challenge was, most people were like, oh, if I am turtle today, so can I become a tiger tomorrow? That's not the objective. Like your say your astrology. I mean, I'm not going to fortune telling, because for astrology is pretty scientific in that sense. So, there is a particular amount of composition that's there. Okay, you don't have to change anything in that, right? And you can't, right? Even if you want to, you can't. What you need to do is be aware of yourself. And whenever you feel that you might go overboard here because of your composition or emotional composition,
just watch out for those things.
Just watch out for those things, that, okay, I have a trait of being over greedy and over diversifying myself. So when we did the people who are tactical tigers, our report tells them that you will be doing over diversification, and you will be surprised that on an average, a tactical tiger that we have has more than 15 mutual fund schemes, more than 15. Some of them have 40. 40 schemes. And honestly, I mean, in a country like India, more than 67% of the money that is invested into equities is invested into top 50 stocks. So there are not more than 50-70 stocks to invest into, in India, investable stocks that I say. And you have got 40 mutual fund schemes with almost 20-25 stocks in each schemes. Do you think that's diversification? No, that's probably ruining your entire, portfolio by having over diversification, and that is because of the overburden of knowledge and skill set that a particular person possesses.
So what you're saying is these 8 different traits that you have,
right?
Sort of
personality.
Yeah, right. Personality traits that you put together into MoneySign. They are not necessarily a certificate of saying that you are good and you are bad, but it's more of awareness that, this is what your traits are. Watch out, play with your strength. These are your qualities. Like, just keep doing that.
Absolutely.
And these are the things that you got to watch out, which you might be a blind spot for you, which you haven't thought about.
Absolutely. The biggest flaw that in entire advisory system that we always see is trying to tell everybody that, boss, this is a horrible thing to do. Owning a house is a horrible thing to do. Going on a holiday is a horrible thing to do. Buying a car is a horrible thing to do. We just try to put our beliefs and our nature on everybody else. And these are the most unhappy relationships, right? I mean, you cannot advise someone who gets that pleasure out of a certain thing. You can't tell them, because at the end, like I said, right, money is a mean to an end, right? It's not an end. What would you do with all the mutual fund investment that you are having, if not buy a home, buy a car, go on a holiday, get married, get your kid educated, educate yourself? If not, then what? Are you going to just look at that net worth number and just die looking at it? No, that's not the purpose, right? So you need, you save for an end goal, right? Saving itself is not an end goal. So you need to understand what is that end goal that you really want to work towards. And that end goal can't be just another achievement in terms of because everybody else wants it. I mean, so that's why we don't have those standard 5 goal plans that, okay, you want to buy this, that. No, that's not. The goal is that, okay, by this point I want to experience this, and for that I want this much of money, and I want to, kind of be more peaceful in my own home, or I'll be more peaceful if I don't have any restrictions of staying in a particular city and not own a home and keep on switching my home every 6 months. Yeah. That's my personality, a wanderer personality, right? Why would I want to be then owning a home?
Yeah. Damn, Keval, you are making me feel bad for the people who follow, few influencers, creators. Of course, not discounting the fact that, there's a lot of awareness and education that's going there. But also I'm feeling bad, to a certain extent for myself, because I have held on to or suppressed some of my dreams that I really wanted to do, because the logical explanation, that came out was that, hey, don't do this, because this is not a logical financial decision. But chuck it, I want to do it because I can afford it.
Absolutely.
And I think that is an important thing, that, as long as you can afford it and your finance is on your side.
See, I'll tell you, I have not met a rich guy who doesn't own a property or a home. I have not met a rich guy who is traveling only in Ubers. And when I talk about rich, I'm talking about real rich people, right? I mean, over 100, 200 crores kind of a net worth. So, I mean, people who have a 5, 10, 15 crore kind of a net worth considering themselves rich, sorry for them. That's not rich, okay? That's just doing good for yourself, okay? So, first of all, that don't count that as a benchmark. At 15 crores, if you have to live your life for next 50 years, you better travel in Uber. If you have stopped working also, I mean, you better travel in Uber and not stay in a city like Mumbai and not own a home here, because you will exhaust all the money in next 25 years. So that's not how it works. But if you're genuinely rich, I have not yet come across someone who has not experienced a luxury car or not experienced a luxury travel or because eventually our life is a mix of all the experiences.
That's correct.
Money is a mean, just
to help
like
you
health,
experience it, yeah.
just like health, to experience all these things. You need good health, mental, physical, emotional, and you need resources to experience life through all the 5 sensory things that we have. And it's pretty simple that way. But the amount of complications that we have put into, and the easiest way to fool people is to tell them that this is, that's a decision which illiterate people take. An educated person or a logical, smart person will not take that decision. And you will see more and more people jumping on that decision, because now that is what smart people do. But you need to be doing what happy people are doing, what peaceful people are doing, not what smart people are doing. Because smart people often or most often do not turn up to be happy and peaceful. What you really want to be is happy or peaceful and not just smart.
I think that's a really, really powerful point right there. And I think it's time that this message of that, hey, you know what, you do you. Let someone else do them, but please you do you, right. And you do it logically with your own interest in mind, because no one else is going to have your interest on their mind.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So now I have an interesting question. Now that I'm talking about, let's, redoing this whole conversation around what is right and what is wrong. First step, like I said, like we discussed, is know yourself, right? Take the money sign, right. Do the personality assessment, and then figure out, oh, these are my strengths. These are the things that I got to watch out for, because this is maybe not the right word, but the curse that my personality in a certain way, not the right word, maybe.
I would say that's a boon.
Yeah, that's
because there is no person on this planet that I've come across has got no talent or has got no boon, right? Everybody is blessed.
Yeah.
You just need to identify that what are you blessed with.
Yeah.
And that's the same case with all these money signs. They are all blessed with some or the other excellent qualities. And there are enough financial products to take care of each of them.
Yeah.
So they don't have to fit into other person's quality, right? If somebody likes diversification and likes that amount of thrill, they should be given that and not be pushed into something which, which is very slow and consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, if you were to, let's talk about Keval, and let's say Keval is somebody who's just out of college, with all the knowledge that you have now, just out of college, have just started earning, and like the typical Indian earning, whatever the amount is, right? 25, 30, 50, 40K a month. Yeah. If it was you, where would you begin? How would you, do that, do your whole financial planning?
Excellent.
Give me like
question.
a step by step.
Yeah, I mean, I would go back, honestly, do all of it that I have done. I would not change even a single financial decision or any decision for that matter, but financial decision more so that I've taken in my life. Whether it was investing more money in myself in my early 20s for education or for, things that I wanted to try and do and all of it, to starting investment at the right stage and getting done with the things like buying a house pretty early in my life. I think all of this is very important, because again, like I said, you also, one is your psychological this thing, and the second one in know yourself is something called as generation profile. So what happens is, in general, it takes 3 generations to become extremely rich. on an average. So if you look at all the billionaires, you're most of them, you will feel, I'm talking about like a very high percentage of people. So the third generation is technically most blessed in terms of their risk appetite and also emotionally risk appetite or financial risk appetite. The first generation, even if they have the emotional risk appetite, they should not. So assume somebody like a rickshaw guy or a small business owner or somebody who is actually earning pretty limited amount of sources. For them, you cannot be pushing them blatantly into equity investing. I mean, all said and done that equity is outperforming but equity can have a lull period of 5, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
And it can also go down by 40, 50, 60%, right? These are the people who have hard goals. Yeah. If you are a small business owner and you have saved money for last 3 years to send your kid to study, that's a year when something happens like COVID where there is no packages also, assuming. COVID in the stock market side has become the biggest blessing though, but I think it will be averaged out pretty soon. But say something unforeseen happened, and which has happened every decade, right? It's not a once in a century kind of a phenomena, it's once a decade kind of a phenomena. And that will give a drawdown of 40-50% to your investments. Are you going to tell your kid that, you know what, my equity investments are down right now? Why don't you wait for a couple of years and then I'll send you to get your education? No, you can't. These are hard goals. What if they need an hospitalization kind of a thing, right? They have put their emergency fund into equity investing because somebody was telling them that equity gives you the highest return. It is stupid to put money into fixed deposit.
Yeah. Often
and
advice.
No, it's not. World's biggest allocation in the world right now also is into debt market. Why do you think governments of every country are investing into debt market and not into equities? If that was the best and the only asset class, because they have hard goals. A government that has cash flows, they have hard goals to give people money the next year. Yeah. They can't be dependent on equity standalone. Yeah. And it is true for everybody individual, right? If I have a hard goal that I have to make payment for something in my business, do you think that corporates invest their money into equities? No, they put into liquid funds. Why? Because we might need it any year. Yeah. So returns is not the objective there. Keeping the money and ensuring that we are just beating inflation or going beyond inflation without risk is more important. Risk management is most important. Liquid funds, they have thousands of crores, right? You talk about any big company, all of them have money in liquid funds. Why don't they have it in equities then? So it is very important to understand that every financial asset class has a reason to be. And only after understanding your generation profile. So the first generation in general are the people who are undereducated. So we have created that entire thing, how we give you which generation you are. They are the undereducated kind of blue collared and hand to mouth or barely. So for them, the goal is not wealth creation. The goal is to ensure right food, clothing, shelter, education and respect, dignity is their goal. The only goal that they have in their life, if you would have gone and spoken to 100 of them, is that मेरे को किसी के आगे हाथ नहीं फैलाना पड़े.
Yeah.
That's their only goal.
You hear a lot of that. Yeah.
And to them, if you are pushing them into equity, उनको हाथ फैलाना पड़ेगा. That was not their goal. They were not chasing a 12% CAGR over a 9% CAGR. Yeah. They would have been happy with the 9% CAGR. They would be better off without that 3% extra because they have emergencies every 3 months in their life. They need to be more emergency ready than doing anything else. Then comes the second generation. These are the people who are the first graduates, postgraduates of their family. These are the people who have taken the first cars in their family, the first homes, the first international holidays, taking parents out. So when that second generation guy, and I used to do that a lot, when I used to go as a guest lecturer somewhere, and I used to ridicule in that sense on the logic front that, you will get out and the first thing that you will do is buy a car on a loan. That's stupid, right? I mean, what logic does that have? Till the time I saw the first time when some guy who passed out from a college and, we were there at that event, and his parents were also there in that graduation ceremony, and he had already secured some 14 lakh rupees job and he had got some 6 lakh rupees car. And the kind of expressions I have seen in the eyes of his father, his mother, I mean, I think there is no better joy that money could have bought than those tears of happiness, because it was not the car that he bought. He bought that validation for every mile that his father walked, saving money to send him to this MBA school. He made that walk of 5 miles, 8 miles every day for 10 rupees of bus ticket worth for his father. He made that every saving of a gas cylinder worth of his mother by making them sit in a car and having them that respect that, okay, everything that you have done it for the right cause. And I have done it, I'm going to give you back that joy. That was not a car. It's an emotion.
Yeah.
And only that makes worthy of any financial decision. And of course, it took us time to understand this side of the business and financial services. But I think that's true for a house. I mean, somebody who has always been deprived of a house, ask them what is the value of having your own house. It's not an Excel sheet. That pride of seeing your name on a house, on a nameplate, having your parents see their own house, hosting a puja. Having your relatives come over to your home, I mean that's what money should be buying you, and not buying you a 2% extra CAGR. What would you do with that, right? I mean that's. But yes, if that house comes at the cost of your peace of mind, that you cannot afford it, like you said, if you can't afford it, if you can't afford a 50 lakh house and you're buying a 2 crore house, that's wrong. And that's why in financial planning we ensure that investment planning is only 20%. Rest is liability planning. Liability behavior is so important, and especially more so in a country.
What do you
like
mean by
India.
liability behavior?
So liability behavior, especially in a country like India, like I said, you walk in, you want to buy a home. Now you are emotionally vulnerable, right? You went to buy a home. 1 crore का आपने घर देखा. Sales वाला आया. He is like, 1.5 crore mein I'll give you a 3 BHK. It's a state of art. You were deprived of your own room when you were a child. Let not that happen to your kids. Now that hit home with you. Right? You're like, oh, of course. I mean, I really want my kids to have their own study, their own room, their own, life and all of it. And you went ahead and you bought 1.5 crore flat now. Then comes in another smart guy, mutual fund guy. He's like, sir, you know what? To recover the interest that you're paying, do mutual funds of 50% of your EMI. So now you have 1.5 lakh ka EMI plus 75,000 ka mutual fund. Now there is a third guy. He's like, sir, you could afford 1 lakh rupee of fixed outflow, against which now you have committed to 2.25 lakh rupees, and your actual income is only 3 lakh rupees a year, a month. So you are pretty prone to dying now out of this stress. You might as well take another insurance term plan so that even if you die away, your family could enjoy this amazing 1.5 crore flat and continue paying the SIPs.
Okay. I have a question. If you have a loan of some sort or EMI of some sort, would you first close that, or would you also invest in a mutual fund or any sort of,
Absolutely. I mean that is something which is where the entire financial planner comes into picture. Because if you cannot afford investing into both of them, you have to ensure that you step up your housing loans, and instead of a 25-year loan, you try to step it up by 10, 15, 20% as much as you can every year and get rid of it ASAP, because that's compounding, right? And when you are able to reduce that 10 year by 15 years, you will get enough opportunity to invest more. The entire problem is that every manufacturer is telling that my product is the nirvana, my product is the, that magic potion. You're going to drink this and you're going to be wealthy tomorrow morning. That's not happening, boss. All of these companies, they are also struggling, right? So don't come into all that rubbish things that are being sold to you. And all of it is important. I'm not saying that mutual fund, best product. Insurance, great invention. The greatest invention in financial history is underwriting insurance risk. right? I mean, you cannot have a better and a safer and the most, I would say, pure or most powerful product than insurance. But what?
Also the peace of mind that it gives you.
Yeah, right. I mean, insurance was created so that if something goes wrong in the world, you always have that, your building can collapse and you still have money, right, to rebuild it. And that's what insurance was for. And it was always against the wars and other things, right? And insurance was written by the earliest insurance history that we see is into Roman emperors and all, where the kings of the kings would insure a kingdom. That, okay, if you lose your kingdom in this kind of a situation, I'll do good to you. And there are a lot of other things, right? And cut to now, today, insurance is nothing but a 40%, 30% commission generator. And that's the sad part. So, I mean, you can give people the best of the things in the world and they'll know how to screw it up, how to ruin it, and how to misuse it.
Now, with all the information that we have discussed and the knowledge for somebody who's watching or listening to us in this conversation, I'll come back again to the question that I asked for some 25, 30-year-old, person who's earning, decent amount, so what would be like, okay, these are the few things that you should definitely look at doing.
Emergency planning, I think, so that is...
So the first one would be personal assessment, your personality.
Personality and know
Second
yourself is generation profile. So
Yes.
know yourself has two things. One is basically, who you are emotionally, and the second one is now understanding your financial. So that is generational profile.
So the first generation, you said that, you haven't been to school and so on and so forth. Of course, those are not the people who are watching us.
Right.
Most of the people who are watching.
So India is right now, most of the people are into second
generation, right? So for the second generation people whose, parents did all sort of difficult, hard work, and then now the first person to go to college and so on and so forth. So what are the few things that you would tell to the second generation?
So since you don't have that safety net, the second generation will most importantly need the emergency planning bit.
Or maybe if you have liability and stuff like that, is that the...
So emergency planning will always be the first thing that you should be doing, instead of just jumping the guns with investments per se, because what you need is more certainty. See, which are the best plan in the world? What is a best plan? How do you define a best plan? You do not define a best plan with the most audacious goal. The best plan is the most certain ones. What is considered as a best plan? जिसकी certainty सबसे ज़्यादा है to be achieved is a good plan, right? Not just the most audacious one. That's a dream. That's a wish. It's not a plan. The plan has to be as close to certainty as possible. That's why we plan, right? So when you're talking about planning your life, you have to achieve the stability, certainty part before achieving, the audacity or the dream part of it. And
spread that net first.
Yeah, spread that net first, because you are a second generation, you do not have the freedom of falling below where you are right now. So for the third generation, it's completely opposite. They have multiple homes. They rather have homes that they have not even seen, right? They have cars, so they have lost interest in car. There is no aspiration of home, car, travel for them. They have been probably traveling business class when they were kids. Right? So they don't have to experience that. What they want to experience? They want to experience the larger than life kind of things. They have more audacious things. So audacity will supersede certainty or safety for third generation. So these are the people who should be investing into arts and antiques and films and cryptos and, all these kind of things. Equity allocation can be much higher. All these things, right? Because they don't have the purpose. You have to understand the purpose and then take decision. And that is where even our second patent pending is financial behavior score. And once you know yourself, once you know your generation, you can chart out your goals. And what are you doing today? Is it going to take you closer to your goals or no? Is what FBS is. I mean, if you are more than 80% certain of achieving your goals, that means you are having a right behavior. And if you are not, that means you can just dream of it, you are not achieving it ever.
This is amazing. I think I have never heard anyone talk about your generational profile and then taking your financial decision based on the generational profile. And I think this is really, really important for you to understand before saying that, oh, you know what, I just heard about somebody invest in art and let me go and, try and, put money into, what third generation person would do, right? So now, a question for most of the people who are watching us are second generation people.
Right.
And if they, maybe some of them have the debt of going to college, or some debt of getting somebody married in the family and stuff like that. So what comes first, getting rid of debt or emergency, emergency planning, or both of them are equally equally important?
See, emergency planning will always supersede any kind of planning, okay? Because that will always be the first for the second generation, right?
So emergency planning would include?
Emergency planning would include having your cash flows in place in case of, so you have your fixed obligations, your EMIs, your fixed, your school fees and your fixed expenses, your
So keeping aside next 6 months to 1 year.
6 months to 1 year kind of that corpus. Then in case you have liabilities, then you need insurance as your second step in emergency planning, because you need to have now covered your liabilities appropriately and all that. And then comes the second part of it after emergency is your debt management or your liability management. For second generation, it becomes very, very crucial because everybody is going to be upselling you. See, I mean, in the world where everyone is selling, you need people who are not selling, like One Finance. We don't sell, we don't have sales team because everybody else is busy selling. So we decided, let us not sell. And that's what, so, liability planning is pretty important in the second step for the young people, especially the second generation. And to manage liability, you can sometimes choose to use investment tools that can outperform your liability rate of interest. But that's not as linear as it looks. Because if you think that I'm going to borrow at 8% and put at 15%, it's not how easily it works. This 15% is going to be probably 50 to 100 or 150% in 3 years. Rest 7 years, it can be minus 50% or 5% positive. And your interest on the other side is going to be linear every day. So what happens if you start with an investment today and it goes down 50% in next day itself? It can, right? The drawdowns happen in 1 day, 1 week. The upside comes in 1 year, 3 years. So you can't really, have that linearity in terms of कि इधर से पैसा निकाल करके इधर डालूंगा, I'll take 12% output from here and pay 8% here. It doesn't work like that because, see, world is a fair place. The only problem is that it gets fair in the longer run. There is inefficiency in the short term, which you may feel it's unfair. But in the longer run, it will, it will plan out, it will become fair.
So Keval, you mentioned about financial behavior score, which I think is a very interesting, thing. So can you share what that score really is? Like you give them on a scale of what, 0 to 100?
Yeah, it's a 0 to 100 score, and like I said, just think of it like your
credit score.
Credit score is again, it's an outcome of a lot of your credit behavior standalone. Here we also take credit score into consideration. So it's a mix of, consider this as your overall health report. So in your health report, what do you have? You have 5 different vitals, right? If your vitals are appropriate, then you are fine. And that vitals also change as per your geography, your age, and a lot of other things, right? I mean, an heartbeat of a person from a 60-year age to a 12-year age will be different, or certain hormones can be different and all that. So that's how we have done FBS. This is basically how aligned are you with your money sign, with your generational profile, and with your goals and your aspirations. How aligned are you? How aligned is your behavior? See, if you want to lose 10 kgs in 3 months, then how much are you eating right? How many times are you working out is what we are counting. So it can be achieved today. That are you really acting or you're just wishful for it?
Got it. So what are the few of the pointers?
So asset to liability ratio is one key aspect. Then you have, your emergency planning is one of the key aspects that is there. So there are multiple ratios which are there, which then eventually, align with your equity allocation is one of the, instrument there. Depending on your life cycle and your goal cycle and your money sign, that this is a range that you need to be into. Are you in that range, or you are above that range, or you are below that range? So even somebody like me, I mean, with my money sign and all that, I realized that I was being a bit over defensive in many cases, or probably over restful in many cases than I should be, because I wanted to do something and I could do it in terms of generation also, and my money sign wanted it, but there was some element in my money sign that would always be a little more procrastinating when it came to finances. And so I mean, this is a journey to discover ourselves as well. So we have been glad to do that.
Awesome. So, this has been such a diverse conversation, and I think there's so much for somebody who's listening or watching this conversation to take back to. And of course, not the kind of episode where we are saying that go back and do these, invest in these 3 things, or these are the best, place to make your money or stuff like that. But I think this is more of holistic financial planning.
Absolutely.
And I think where you hang in there, take a step back, understand this first, understand how everything works, and then go about taking the action, taking like what should my plan be, right?
Absolutely.
Now, with this understanding, what should be my next action? Should everybody
get a qualified financial advisor? I mean, you can download the app.
That's something everybody can afford.
100%. I mean, if you can afford an investment, you can afford a qualified financial advisor. I mean, if you can afford a gym trainer, or if you can afford going to a gym, better not do that without affording a nutritionist, because you might end up ruining your health more than doing good. Otherwise, you can just continue with your daily rituals at home and stay a little bit fitter as much as you can. If you are going all out and making that as your primary objective, like which is financial well-being, then you might as well be very serious about it. And when I say serious, just be very certain and very focused about it. And you don't take medicines or nutritionists from medical shops, right, anymore. 25-30 years back, our earlier generation would walk into a medical store and ask कि भैया पेट दर्द हो रहा है कुछ बताओ, और वो देता था और ये खा भी लेते थे. Right. Today we laugh on those kind of people. We are like, you would take a recommendation from a chemist. And that's exactly what we are doing today, right? We are taking financial recommendations from people who do not qualify to give that advice. So, take advice only from qualified financial advisor, and they're coming pretty cheap. You are already paying commissions. So QFAs do not charge commissions. They take only advisory fees, just like a doctor who just prescribes a medicine and is not selling the medicine. That's the kind of thing.
I think this reminds me of the conversation that I was having with my girlfriend a couple of weeks back when we had a fight. And after that, she told me that, we were in the fight and I was like, did you talk about this with your sister since you are very close? And then she came back and told me that, no matter how bad our fight is, the third person who is going to know about this is therapist or the person who is professional.
Absolutely.
It's not going to anyone who's not qualified and who would give me the correct advice, and I can relate that here as well.
Couldn't agree more. There are a lot of other projects we keep on working on the same lines, like you said. The whole idea is to ensure that people take advices from qualified people and not random experiences, because an experience is so personal. Something worked for someone, it may be completely opposite for you, because the time, space, event, person, everything has changed. You can't take generic advice, and that's pretty obvious to know now.
Yeah. So what we got from here in this conversation is a few steps that we shared. Understand yourself and understand what generational level that you are in. Understand all the liabilities, where you want to go. And then, seek professional help.
Absolutely.
And, get somebody to have a look at what you want to go and what should be the path that you should, really take. And like you said, it's affordable for anybody who want to sort of get started in this journey,
Absolutely.
Right? And how frequently do you, want to visit a planner? Is it like something that you do?
So what we have is, we don't have annual subscriptions, we don't have those percentage of AUM kind of things and all. So it's 2,500 per consultation, just like any other professional, a doctor, lawyer, or a chartered accountant. We in fact have a lot of lawyers and chartered accountant also for legal advisory or taxation advisory part. and you pay them 2,500 per consultation. On an average, we recommend one consultation per quarter to rejig a lot of stuff, all these things which is happening. But if you
So
are going
for a month, for a year.
for a year is what is on an average. But again, depending on your personal state, if you are going through a city change, you're having a marriage, you're getting married, like you said, you might want to have more conversations. You might want to have succession planning done. So then you might want to have a couple of extra conversations. And sometimes, 6 months, 1 year, you are not having any action. Right, and then probably you might not need it every quarter as well. But every quarter is just once we recommend that it's better to get yourself checked.
That's 10,000 a year. I think that's fairly.
And that's also saving all the commissions that you are otherwise going to pay. Because you pay like a huge and hefty amount of commissions on all these mutual funds and insurance. So we have zero commission policy, zero sales. So no product sales, no commissions. So any which ways, on an average, our members are saving 64,000 rupees a year after paying 10,000 rupees a year.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? If I can pay 20,000 for my gym subscription because I'm stressed about my health, and if I'm equally, if not more stressed about my money, then I can well afford to pay that 4 or 6, whatever, or 3, whatever number of consultants.
Right.
That I, yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, most importantly is that we do not have any demat account opening kind of stuff that you need to shift all your things from year to year. So like I said, we are not into selling a product or anything. You can continue doing all your work with all the amazing brokers and this and that, wherever you are doing. All you have to do is do the right thing. As is, where is, you can continue doing. But do the right thing from an unbiased advisor who has got no vested interest in telling you that you take this product or you take that product. And so, people come to us to verify their investments, get their entire planning verified, everything that they're doing. They just come, they get everything verified. That am I doing all this correctly or somebody is taking me for a ride? And that's a very important reason to know, right? It's kind of an audit process for a lot of people.
Awesome. Thank you, Keval. Thank you so much for spending this time. I think this has been such a great conversation. And, for me as well to learn about a lot of things. And I'm sure everybody and I think this is such a great start on the inspiring talk of the, and because this is something that I really wanted to do for a long time in terms of bringing a lot of topics related to finance, but not the typical finance advice that you see, out there. And, because the audience that watches or consumes the podcast is the audience who want to really get into the depth of it and get the real stuff. And I think we have been able to achieve that in this conversation. Thank you so much for
Thank you so much for having me, and have a pleasant day.